Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of 4PlayerAnimecast. I am your host, Spire, coming at you live with another episode on an odd week, I guess you would say. This is again aside from our regular content with the anime reviews, but we have had a couple of things releasing recently where we obviously couldn't wait to just cover it in our regular podcast. One was the much anticipated Star Wars Visions uh, series of OVAs. It's OVA series, right? OVAs, and this other one, I guess also much awaited for at least a couple of years, right? Is
4
one
years.
that uh, this is a this is a
3
Crunchyroll
years.
original, right? Is this under the Crunchyroll original contract
Yeah.
or what?
Oh, I mean,
Oh,
absolutely.
Yes.
It's there.
Yeah.
It was there, the original.
It is their
Oh,
original.
okay. So this is the original of the originals, of, also known as
The
Hi.
progenitor.
Yeah, the mother, the mother of all Crunchyroll originals. Hi, Guardian Spice. But before we get into this, I'm sure many of you have heard of it. But yeah, again, before you get into this, again, I am your host Spire, and with me are my lovely compatriots Dark
Hi.
and Near.
I don't want to be here.
Toast also didn't want to be here, and he literally just dropped out
Speaking
again.
of,
Yeah. It's a
Probably
smarter man.
you're stuck here, buddy.
God, what the what? What's happening? All right, so okay. Hi, Guardian Space. Let me just give the rundown real quick. So, Hi, Guardian Spice was under the Crunchyroll Originals sort of contract, which was Crunchyroll taking in a bunch of anime and anime studios, or it either took a bunch of stuff that was set to be adaptations of original
Well,
material,
see,
or
you gotta have the history lesson here, because this is before they announced the
oh right, they
lineup,
announced
right?
right. This is
Because this
before they
is
announced the contract. I apologize. Yeah,
this is
Nier
the
is actually
first
correct.
this is the
Yes,
first thing
yes,
that
yes,
they announced
yes.
under the
So they
Crunchyroll
announced.
Originals umbrella.
Yes,
Back in
yes. You are correct.
2018, they
Yes.
announced this.
Yes, I
God, it feels
apologize.
like it's been like fucking 10 years.
Probably the worst possible trailer that you could introduce something with. In which they admitted to illegal hiring practices.
Oh yeah, they had the trailer that was like, "We
Yeah,
don't hire men" or whatever it
yeah,
is.
Yeah, we
like
hired a
What was
staff
that?
specifically of all women, and it's like
little,
you
like yeah,
can't do that.
the entire trailer was our cast is so diverse. It's so diverse. Our hiring staff is 100% women. It's like, wait a minute, that's
Also,
not
here's this video that, as far as I can remember,
that's
are
not
all
diverse.
white women too.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
all like middle-aged white women and lesbians. It's like, okay, that's not exactly the most diverse team that one would want in a series that aims for, proper representation and, depiction of an actual diverse cast. But here we are with a series that's headed, assumingly still, uh, by like 90% women. Um, and this is what we get 3 years later.
Yeah, so it
Keep in
is
mind, this
again.
was originally planned
For like
2019.
yes, it was 2019. So it's like it just pretty much was dead, and I don't even know. It was very under the
I mean, they memory hold this shit. Like
yeah, exactly.
the trailer came out, it got a lot a lot of backlash, understandably. Um, because I mean, let's be real. When you release a trailer in 2018 with with a bunch of
Choose your next words carefully, friend.
with some
Whatever Nier's
with
about to say,
bright
With
we're
some
hair.
four player anime
characters.
cast is not
There
supposed
are
Yeah,
is not
bright-haired
supposed.
individuals, you're gonna get backlash. You're gonna get
Okay.
a lot of dislikes. and I guess Crunchyroll saw that feedback and they disabled the comments on the trailer, as one typically
Oh, did they?
does.
Okay.
Absolutely, they did that almost immediately.
Uh-huh.
They hid the like to dislike ratio, and then they basically just memory hold the series. Like they just didn't talk about it. It would show up again when they announced that like big lineup. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, of the
Yeah, it was in
Crunchyroll
the
original
trailer, I believe,
contract in
and
general.
it was
Yes.
on the website.
Yeah, but except for that, they didn't talk about it really.
Uh,
And then 2019 came and went, and they just never gave up any updates. And then what was it like a month ago, 2 months ago? They just suddenly was like, yeah, here's a trailer. It's coming out soon. And
right.
then about a week ago, the entire series dropped, and the internet's been having a blast because it's not very good.
The thing I will say is that the internet sometimes goes off in directions and hates on stuff or likes stuff. Obviously, it likes stuff in a way that you're just like, oh, whatever. But also, it sometimes hates stuff in a direction where you're also just kind of exasperated. You're like, that's not how that works, really. Like, for
Well,
instance,
yeah,
where it's like a lot of people like hate some isekais and they're like, okay, well, this isekai could be bad. Why do you hate it? And it's like, it's just like Arifureta. It's like, bro, come on.
yeah,
Like,
like that's
bro,
not that is
is this the hill
yeah.
you want to die
I
on?
mean, it's like getting in the lineup where I'm like, yeah, fucking, I hate like this show sucks. High Guardian Spice is terrible. I hate it.
Yeah.
And then the guy next to me is like, yeah, keep your politics out of my anime. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not where
Yeah,
I
that's
was going
not
with
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
or
not
they're
the
like
that's not the problem.
or
But
they're like, is Little Witch Academia, is this all? It's like there's some other things. Like, come on, like, let's have an honest
well,
discussion.
well,
Yeah.
that one's a little bit more fair.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
it's still just
there
like
is a lot of like shitting on it where it's like, keep your politics out of my anime. Meanwhile, it's
yeah.
like, hey, what's your favorite series? Gundam. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
uh, like, I don't know if you realize, but
But
yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, as Nier did, correct me on this matter. It is High Guardian Spice was the original sort of Crunchyroll is going to make an anime kind of thing that started as a pipe dream and became an actual reality. Along the way, when it was silent, it birthed its own kind of general, I want to say, contract or set of projects called Crunchyroll Originals, which included stuff like God of High School. It included was that one? What's that one that was like based upon like Aztec themes or something like that or
Onyx
whatever or Maya theme?
Equinox?
Yeah. And
Fuck,
then
dude.
there was a couple of others. Noblesse was Crunchyroll original, right? If I remember correctly, was
Noblesse,
it?
it was listed. Yeah, it was listed as one, I
Yes.
believe.
So there was a couple of stuff. Some had big names. Some others. Oh wait, was Tower of God also a Crunchyroll
Yes,
original?
Tower of God
Yes.
was
Okay.
also a Crunchyroll
So yeah, there
original.
was a bunch of like bigger names, and then a lot of them kind of ended up being like, uh. So
I mean, Onyx Equinox was.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think they were all really good, and they all turned out perfectly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
Onyx
love Tower
Equinox
of God anime.
was a beautiful fucking disaster, featuring what was it? Anything other than the English dub
Yeah.
was like them, or no, certain languages, their dub was just spoken lines over the English dub,
Yeah.
which was pretty awesome.
All right, so we should probably actually go into
No.
the. It's like nope, no, I don't want to do it. You
I don't
can't
want to
make
do
me.
it yet.
But but yeah, we should actually go into the review, obviously, of High Guardian Spice. But before doing so, I just want to kind of make a disclaimer that like obviously we're all gonna have different views, but in my opinion, at least for me, like as I'm trying to kind of control this podcast, this episode
Spoilers:
to come.
Spire fucking loves this show.
Yeah, I love this show. But yeah, I don't want to say that I'm gonna be super strict, but it's like I want to make things stay a little bit more objective. And you guys know me, like I'm not afraid to stay a very objective, even on the stuff that I like even on again one of my more famous things is like Toloveru. Like I love the show, but I'm not gonna sit out here and be like it was a masterpiece or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things shitty with it, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna
basically,
try
this
to.
is Spire's way of forcing us into saying that the show is good.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna try to make it as objective as possible when we're going through it. So we're not just, oh yeah, this is just a Little Witch Academia ripoff or whatever the fuck.
It is.
I
Anyway,
mean, which is to not say that it's not, because it is.
right, right. But yeah. So starting off, I guess, do you guys all want to kind of go around and give round we can kind of just do it like Star Wars Visions, right? Where we kind of cover like each separate like layer, right? So I guess let's just start off with the audio visuals, sans voice acting, right? So initially audio visuals. What do you
Well,
guys want me to
okay. Well,
start
I
off?
mean, that's not fair, but sure.
That's why I split it in the
Well,
first
actually, no. You
place.
know what? Fine, fine.
I think it is fair because the visuals and voice acting are like there's such like different like horrible packages. Like
So I
That's
think the
true.
audio. So I guess I'll just start off and then you guys can build up. So I think audio in terms of like I didn't notice really anything for the soundtrack, but or the BGM rather, but the opening and ending, the instrumentals were okay if we were kind of just like it was kind of very reminiscent of what you would hear of maybe very very early 2000s, like 2000 through 2006 ish, right? Of maybe like a slice of life visual novel, like a second rate slice of life visual novel, or maybe an anime adaptation thereof, right? It sounds slightly like a step down from maybe the Koihime Muso opening or something like that, right? It was the instrumentals are kind of like whatever. It's not really packing a punch, and for some reason in the opening it sounds a lot like sometimes the voice is trying to carry the instrumentals, but then or sometimes the balance is off, and then the um the voice is just belting notes out at a time where the instrumentals are kind of like kind of just kind of doing some weak synth stuff. It's very weird. The balance is not very good.
are you
But
telling me that this show's audio mixing is not very good?
yeah, exactly. So it's not, the balance is a little bit off on that, but it wasn't like the worst thing. The ending, the instrumentals were initially good, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a interesting, like standard anime, like hot, sort of peppy anime ending kind of thing, right? Um, where maybe it's something like Wataten does, or like a lot of like Doakobo like endings and stuff like that go out. And then the lyrics and the singing came in, and and the lyrics and the singing leaned a
And you
little
just
bit.
you just fell in love.
Yeah, it leaned a little bit too much into the cheesiness, and it kind of just ended up becoming like a very like kids show, like PBS kids show. And I was like, that's not where the instrumental is meant to go, I think. But okay, it's a kids show now. So it
Spyro,
was
it's not
very
about
weird.
knowing where the instruments are going. It's about feeling the
Yeah,
flow
that's true.
of the music. Okay?
Yeah, it was very weird. So that was my opinion on the opening and ending. And then, oh, so Chen Poster in chat says, Chen Poster in chat says, weren't they trying to advertise it as a kids show in some way too? Like kids will maybe did they
They,
near? I
I
forget.
have, I have
My memory is
no
terrible.
idea.
I don't remember them ever. See, like it's like maybe I don't remember them ever being like, yeah, like this could be for kids because when you boot up the show, it literally gives you a mature audiences warning. And there are scenes in the show where like monsters are fucking like getting domed and they're
Yeah,
like
exactly.
bleeding all over the place. So
Doesn't one of the guys, like, the villain gets captured at the end, spoiler alert, and then one of the people like judging him is like, he should be executed or something like that. Like, that's not
Yeah.
how that works in a kids show, I think.
Yeah, we should
Time.
kill him. I think we should just kill him.
I think yeah, but and then my opinion on the visuals. Well, obviously Dark's gonna go at it a little bit harder, but it was very awkward. There's not a lot of phrase. The fucking
Yeah,
fighting scenes
so
were very like, I don't know what to say. Like there were some interesting ideas going on in the fight scenes. Like there was one scene where like somebody, like the villain took a sword and like cauterized his wounds in the middle of battle, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen that before. But it's like a lot of like the actual animation and stuff. That was that was no bueno.
I think you mean it was fucking wholesome, epic.
it was an incredible. There were incredible fights. Okay.
So what do you guys think?
So, I mean, as far as like, pretty much agreed on the OPD stuff. As far as the other, like, the animations go, like, it wasn't like it could have been worse. Now,
Yeah, it could have been worse.
it did feature bread.png, which was awesome. Like, that was really fucking cool to see that there was just a picture of bread left in the show. Now, with the way some other things look in the show, I'm going to assume they were supposed to paint over that, and whatever was going on with this series, they just didn't fucking care, and they didn't do that. Because that's one of the things about this show. It has that very old cartoon consistency where, like, everything is drawn completely different, like, and not consistently. You know, like the backgrounds have this like weird, like,
Oh my
almost like
god.
painted style at some points, and then like the
Yeah.
shit that's gonna move in the scene, you're like, I know exactly what's gonna happen. I know what's moving here.
Do you wanna
because it
put up
looks
the do you wanna
different.
put up the do you wanna put up the fucking bread PNG stuff?
Oh, let me
On
see if I
screen?
can find a screenshot of bread.png.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
Nier, what do you
so
think?
well, I was just
Or
gonna say one other
yeah.
thing is, like, you know, like, characters look different from other stuff that's gonna move from like the backgrounds. So like in that same scene, they hold up like pancakes and they look fucked up. Like they look like clip art. And it's like, what is this? Let me see if I can add an image. So I have so there's two images really. I'm gonna add this one. It still has yeah, okay. So there's two. So what's weird though is that not in motion, the characters really don't look bad. I will give it that caveat.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give it that. It ain't no like X Arms level where every frame you pause on, there's like 80 different things to be like, this is all fucked up.
So, I kind of, I really
There's
don't know where.
bread.png, by the way.
Yeah,
Dude, that loaf in the fucking
Yeah, like there it is. If you can't tell, it's the one on the bottom left.
Oh my god, that's so. And like the thing is, like, the bread basket isn't like, it's not like that one looks that realistic either. That one just looks like one of those practice paintings of like a basket of fruit or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
It
then
just
there's
kind of
a
looks like that.
picture of 3 loaves of bread lined up. I
Oh
don't know
my
why
god.
they did that other than to maybe block her hands or something. Like, I don't know who
It's like that Gotoba.
framed this.
It's
To be
it's like that. It's like how that the chief illustrator for one of the episodes in quintessential quintuplets, right? Gotobe no Hanoyome, right? Said was criticizing one of these storyboards,
Fucking
right? I
way.
believe was right, where it's like the sisters, where he mentioned that like if this was how the perspectives were laid out, then the sister would have to be like 2 feet higher or something like that. The younger sister.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, this show is very bizarre, right? In terms of visuals, because for a lot of the show, you can take a screenshot of this series and it doesn't look bad, right? Obviously there are moments where it does look bad, because like there are some frames that are just really fucking jank. But for the most part, if you look at this series just like not in motion,
Mhm.
uh, it doesn't look terrible, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
got
agree.
it's got decent colors. Um, the backgrounds are for the most part drawn not too bad. Uh, the designs aren't entirely egregious. There are some that are just like, okay, that's kind of ugly, but you know. Um, but when this show is in motion, it is fucking dog shit. It is absolutely fucking horrible. I don't know if you guys caught it, but in the first it's the first episode, right, where they're getting on like that like double decker carriage.
Yeah.
Um there are like 5 cuts there where the carriage changes sizes. I don't know if you guys noticed,
I did
but
not notice that.
the carriage
Holy shit.
wildly changes size. Um in some shots it is fucking massive. In some shots it is really not that big at all. Um this series has an absolutely awful relationship with perspective and keeping things consistent. Uh characters will slide around when they're walking. I don't know if that's something you noticed, but like
I think I
if you
saw a little bit of
ever
that.
if
Yeah.
you watch pretty much any walk cycle in this series, characters are not moving at the speed they're walking. They are either slower than their actual like walking, like animation speed, or they're sliding faster than they should be moving, given how fast their feet are moving. Um, this series also has clearly no communication between the background artists and the actual animators, because in my opinion the backgrounds um are completely like different fucking style than the actual like animated characters, and it's really fucking jarring. um and yeah, I mean, it's just like it's really lazy for a lot of it. Like, you know, pretty much there isn't like a single background character in this series that moves. Um which is kind of strange because they drew them, you know, independent of the background, and yet they're not anime. Um but yeah, this show looks like shit. Um you know, it's not like fucking Gundo Musashi levels of like quality,
This guy just
but
hates Western animation, I think.
I mean it's bad. Even on
Yeah.
the standard of like fucking like really low budget like Western cartoons, which I'm gonna be honest, this show's not anime, right? Like anybody calling this an anime is like using that term pretty loosely. I think this show's a cartoon. Um and like this show looks a lot worse than really any like kids show uh
Yeah, no, that's also a
I
big
could
thing. Like
think of.
it honestly like looks worse than an actual kids show. It's
Yeah.
not good. But yeah, I don't know. It's obviously a little bit unfortunate. Well, should I say unfortunate? It is my
I mean
usual like character. It's
it's
unfortunate
strange, right?
because we. It's not like we wanted it to be bad, but it's obviously having taken what is it 3 years, right?
Three
Three.
years. And
3 years.
uh, you know, with the immense like inconsistency issues that I noticed just in the first couple episodes, Which normally the first couple episodes is where you're paying attention, right? Like
Mhm.
it's where you're pretty much you're trying to impress, right? Like that's where you front load a lot of like your. It's kind of where you try to flex your animation, right? It's not where in the first 5 minutes you have a fucking carriage that is shape shifting in terms of perspective within like a couple of shots.
Mhm.
Um, it, it really makes me wonder. Like they announced this 3 years ago, right?
Mhm.
And in that announcement trailer, like they had um like storyboards and stuff. They were showing storyboards, but I'm curious as to what the production cycle was for this series because this feels insanely rushed.
Yeah.
Um, which I'm sure we'll talk about more when we get into voice acting, right? Um, but it just really makes me wonder what the fuck happened in those 3 years. Like, you know what I mean?
It languished. I mean, it's the standard kind of story of any project in these sorts of things where it's been delayed for like 3 years, right? Like there are like spurts, and then it just kind of stops for like a year, and then some a little bit more spurting, and then it kind of stops for 1 year, and then there's the last sort of
Yeah, but
gas. I'm betting, like honestly,
you would think that some of those bursts would be consistent.
I'm literally shaking my
Like,
head very hard, like over here.
like you would think
That's not how that works out.
that when they have
Yeah.
like fucking storyboards and shit and like shit done on
Mhm.
episode 1 would be of consistent quality throughout. Not,
Right.
just falling apart at certain points.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much else to say on that point other than it's, I almost expected this to happen even if it was released in 2019, but to see this again released at 2019 sort of level in 2021 is just anyways.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest. This is more animated than I was expecting.
Really more it was above your
Oh
expectations.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be
No,
worse too. Like,
no, like the animation quality is
Okay.
about what I expected, but like it is there is more movement on the screen than I
Mhm.
was ever expecting to come out
Oh, okay,
of this
okay,
show, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like
yeah, I thought it was going to
I
be like half PowerPoint presentation, like
basically,
characters
yeah.
just sitting there. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So this, basic audiovisual stuff aside, we're getting to the segment where people know people, longtime viewers of the podcast will know me as sort of a very so- moderate, a moderate level. I guess, compared to some of these other nerds out there, but moderate level like voice actor otaku slash nerd, right? Uh, and all right. I mean, fuck it. Let's just go over the voice acting. How'd it go? Do you guys want me to go for it first, or do you guys want to kind of like
I
That's up to
clear the
you.
area? Do you guys want to clear the area before I go on, or what?
mean, you got to mention Squid Boy.
Or
Yeah,
Slime Boy, or whatever it
Slime
was,
Yeah,
Boy.
right?
Slime
First
Boy.
of
Yeah.
Sorry.
all,
All right. Well, okay. So I think it's not even just Slime Boy. I think
no,
all of the
absolutely not.
male voice
Rosemary
act
on
for
episode
some
1
reason.
has like
They're all.
like a high pass filter on
I
her
mean, they're all
voice
bad all the time. Like,
interacting with Sage,
Well,
who
okay.
probably has the best mic.
Here's what I'll say. It's like I think, yeah. First off, the mic quality and just like the actual like who did the sound production on here, because it's like the sound production is terrible.
I'm pretty sure
Um,
the voice actors did the sound production.
what?
I like the only way I can think of the sound quality being as varied as it is like they basically mastered their own audio, sent it in, and Crunchyroll was like, okay, this is good. Like there's no way these people were in a studio. These people absolutely recorded their lines from home, which is why you
Well,
have
yeah, 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 that
varying
one, yeah,
mic quality.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And uh nobody mixed this audio. Let's be real. There was
Yeah,
no
that's
audio
the big
mixing
thing. It's like,
because there are
why didn't
scenes
you?
where the music is
Right.
completely overpowering any dialogue,
Yeah, exactly.
um, which is insane. Um, and to make matters worse, apparently this show does not have English subtitles on Crunchyroll.
Really?
Apparently
That's
so,
cool.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
You
listen,
know, fuck mute people, right?
Crunchyroll,
It's like,
Yeah, like
or sorry,
fuck
deaf
deaf
people, right?
people.
It's like,
yeah, fuck the
Yeah,
hearing impaired. But yeah, apparently the show does not have English closed captions at all.
okay.
that's awesome.
Can I also say, like, how do I say this? So my sort of, I don't know whether I would call it nuance, but I do have like a lot of examples where, again, like one thing that I noticed, just the voice acting. Obviously, it's sound mixing and the sound production is just, oh, it like legitimately gives me a headache. But in terms of just the voice acting, right? What I took some notes on this, but I think it's not even just Slime Boy, it's just the male casting in general that they just, I don't know what happened. They just didn't, either the director, right? The sound director or whoever, who was directing people to, do the voices, just didn't give them any suggestions or whatever was happening. It was just terrible. Or it was just the the male casting was awful. They literally sounded like they were a couple of frat boys in a college dorm that just decided to make a YouTube video or like a YouTube episode. And even that would have been more like better or higher energy than whatever was in this male casting. It was terrible. It was bad.
Spire, they
In
only
terms of,
know how to hire women.
yeah, that's true. In terms of like the voice acting of the main cast or like the women or whatever, um, or even just like the transgender character, like from what I heard, the core like tones and like the abilities of the actual voice acting cast, like the tones that they can provide, are okay. The issue is, one, they have really shitty lines half the time. Like they're just like,
Yeah, I mean
we're,
the dialogue is just
yeah,
fucking
like
horrendous.
we're gonna be fearsome dudes or whatever Rosemary said in episode 1, and then there was the infamous line in, I believe, episode 2 or episode, which episode was it? Was it episode 3, right? Where Rosemary, the main girl, the pink haired girl, was meeting up with the transgender uh
Teacher.
teacher, right? And the transgender teacher was just like, I'm transgender.
I'm
And she was like,
transgender.
I'm
I don't know
transgender.
that word.
I
I don't
don't
know that
I
word.
don't
I'm
I
like,
don't know
What what
I
does
don't
that
know what
mean?
that means.
What does that
I don't
mean?
know.
I'm like,
I do not know what
really?
that
Is this where we're
means.
going with this? And
Yes,
then,
dude, you have to be talked down to like a fucking child.
so, and the main girl's, so it's weird because even the main girl's voice actress, right? When she's having a regular conversation, like for instance, when they were inside that carriage in episode 1, and she was just speaking in her regular conversation tone, right? She sounded okay, like when she was talking with, Sage and stuff like that, and she was doing that. But then literally whenever she really tries to do anything else, right? Like shout or like sound sad or like bombastic or whatever, she sounds like either she's been smoking too much or just awkward in general, right? It's like it goes from, oh yeah, this blah 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 blah, and it's like, oh okay, this voice actress sounds okay, and then literally the moment they get out of the carriage, it's like, we're gonna be fearsome dudes, and it's like, oh come on, like come on, like we can't be like this, right? So she's, whenever she has to do another emotion or is in another predicament, it just sounds bad. And the voice acting is really, again, uh, even in regular conversations, sometimes it sounds very weird and awkward. It's like, not only did the sound directors not have, what was the sound director non-existent or just wasn't available to give them any suggestions, but even the voice actors and actresses felt like they didn't know how to do like basic sort of emotional accented tones. It was weird. For instance, like there's one episode, I believe episode 1 or episode 2, right? When they get into the academy and they get into the rooms or whatever, right? And she takes a sphere or whatever, the Terra sphere or whatever it is,
Yeah.
Sage, and she says, "Its conjuring power seem unlimited." When she's talking about the Terra sphere and sort of wonders, right? Because she's been given a Terra sphere by somebody else. The tone should be, the this conjuring power seem unlimited. Like it should go up, right? Because it's a surprise, or like, wow, it's a like, admiration kind of thing, right? Why does it go down? Its conjuring power seem unlimited. Like that's not
Because
that's not
she's
Oh, 'cause she's
because she's
analyzing
reading
the
a script.
situation. Yeah.
the-
I mean, I think another problem is too is that these people, for sure. Well, actually, I can't say that for sure, but I would assume they didn't actually have each other's lines in front of each other. Well, not the lines,
yeah,
but
and
like
even
they
so,
didn't
but even
have
so,
like
like
a recording where they could hear the other person.
Yeah, they definitely. I mean, they were absolutely just reading these lines off alone
But the
at
thing is,
home.
that also happens in
Um,
visual novels. I mean, obviously, like sound booth aside, right? Like that sometimes, oftentimes, happen in visual novels when they, or even like games where they have to hear the line, or not even hear the lines, but it's like they sometimes just have to do the lines off of what's going on, right? But it's like,
Well, I mean, they're also definitely amateurs. Like, let's
it
not
was
they
not good. Yeah,
beat around the bush.
well,
They're
it was
they
definitely
more of a
are
not
they
combination of
are
like,
experienced
yeah,
voice actors either. So I think
yeah,
you have a
quite
recipe
a
for
bit of
disaster.
the voice actors are legitimately like Twitter people. Um,
so bad.
like if you
Dude,
look up if you
the
look them
blonde
up,
guy, right?
yeah,
The Ikemen, like Aster
the
or
himbo
whatever his name.
dude,
It was okay. So I will literally, or the blonde dude, yeah. I would literally have been like, if the first time the blonde guy walked up to Rosemary Rover and was like, "Hey," or whatever, right? And then Rosemary's
yeah,
like, "Oh, I'm have yeah."
the guy that was like evil from the start because he's like a handsome
Yeah,
straight
yeah, yeah.
dude.
So Aster, when he walked up and said, "Hey," I would have been like, I would have even been okay if it was like, "Hey," or some like very uh like cheesy, like almost slimy, like greasy kind of thing. Like, but it
Yeah.
was like Crunchy, or not, sorry, Twitter level of like, hey, like some weird YouTube stuff. I would have been even okay with that. But it was. Do you remember like when he walked up and he said that line? He was like, "Hey."
Eh,
And it's like, what the fuck? Is
uh,
that what you call voice acting? Like,
hey,
is
dude, what's going on?
like, what's with the male castings in this? And Slime Boy, yeah, I didn't even cover Slime. Slime Boy
Yeah, I
is
mean
so
you have
bad.
to cover Slime.
It's
Like
so bad.
he's literally the most important character of the series. Like
A Slime Boy's voice acting is awful, and not only is it like really bad, but the worst crime. And it's like I don't really understand how it's like his expressions and like the way he's animated don't match up with whatever is going on with his voice and tone at like
no,
half the time.
no.
Which is like that's literally what
Half
you're
the
supposed to
time
do
is
with
generous. I would
voice
say about
acting.
100% of the
I'd
time.
say all the time.
It
But
makes me
you
so
know,
angry because the point of voice acting is to be like, hey, this character is being animated or expressing or saying this sort of stuff, right? And you're supposed to dub over it in a way that makes sense in this context. And that like whoever's voicing Slime Boy just didn't do that at all. And I was just like, are you're calling yourself a voice actor
I mean,
by doing this? Is this what you're
so
saying? Made me really angry.
when when I first saw that scene, um, the impression I got from Slime Boy, that is it almost feels like because his mic is fucked, right? Like he absolutely has the worst mic in the series, which is saying something, because there's some fucking bad audio quality in this show, um, but like his is really bad. Like it's almost like cutting
Oh,
out
oh
at
my
points, right?
god.
Um, but it really feels like the the like the production team like had him in like a Zoom call or something, and they were like, "Here's your script," and he's like, "Okay," and he starts like reading it out to himself, right?
Uh-huh.
And he finishes the lines, and they're like, "Okay, thanks," and he's like, "Huh?" And then like that's what they went with. Like he's literally just reading the lines. Like he's not acting. He's like slurring his fucking speech.
He's not even
Like
like looking at what the character is. Like I don't think he
yeah,
even looked at like the character design
Well,
or like
that's
the
what I mean.
animations.
Like where I
It's very weird.
said earlier that they didn't hear the other people deliver their lines. I don't think Slime Boy even knows what show these lines are
He's
for.
doing,
Like,
yeah.
I don't think
I don't
I don't
think
think
he saw the
Slime Boy knows
storyboards.
he's I don't think Slime Boy knows he's in a show.
Yeah, I don't think he
Like
knew he was being recorded. Like,
It was really upsetting. And again, it's like obviously part of me, it might be part of me acting like this might be me being sort of again the voice acting or Seiyu otaku, but it's also just like one
I
of the
mean,
things that
no,
made
I
me
mean it's
more angry
bad.
about Slime Boy is like the clear lack of effort, right? I would again, even if Aster or like Slime Boy was a little bit more like cheesy or like kind of like weird uh or like a bombastic, like how sort of the Rosemary voice actress did it, right? I would have been like,
I just don't know
okay, it's not
how.
good, but I would have been like, whatever, you tried at least. But Slime Boy literally did not try. He didn't try. And I was like, what?
I mean,
Okay.
acting aside, right?
Mm.
Is how does the production team get a because like the only timeline I can see this is the voice actors record their lines and they send them in, right?
Mm.
Um, like from home,
Uh-huh.
and because I like there's no way that like they were receiving active feedback, right? Like there's no way that there was a back and forth here, right? Like it was up to it seems to be up to the voice actor's discretion of which take they wanted to send in, right? Um, and the production team just went with it. But I don't know how any production team that is like working with a company can receive audio quality that Slime Boy's actor delivered and said, "Okay, we can use this. We can put this in a show." Like
Right.
eh,
That people pay us for, right, to
it
watch.
is unbelievably bad, right? Like it is
Yeah.
something you would expect to hear when you click on like a fucking YouTube video essay that has like
20
100
views.
views. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's absurd. It's not the quality you would expect to hear, even from like an incredibly low budget production. Um, let alone a Crunchyroll original that's been in production for 3 fucking years.
Yeah, I
Right?
mean it
Like,
was an original idea to use a webcam microphone to record, but
yeah, it's insane.
It was just it, it started off okay and then it just got worse and worse and worse. I'm just like, come on, you guys can't do this.
I mean, as far
Oh.
as quality goes, I'd say it started off really bad. Like I would say it started off because like it started like I was saying earlier, like
Okay,
it
so let me
started
see.
off
It,
where it
it
was
had hope. It had hope,
complete
and then it kind of yeah.
like the first two lines spoken in the show between
Mm.
Rosemary and Sage have just you instantly are like, wait, what the fuck is going on? Like Sage sounds like a professional microphone, like it sounds fine. And
Yes,
then
yes,
Rosemary's like you can just tell like what the fuck is going on here. Like
yeah.
what is this? Like like it sounds like there's a high pass filter. And it's like this is very bad. Like that's already not good. None of it was as bad as Slime Boy, of course, but I do think that even just in general, inconsistencies are so fucking bad and does just like reiterate the fact that it's like there had to be no production team. for this entire fucking series.
It was very upsetting, and again, just a couple more examples before we go, to the next section. Is there was another time, right? The dark skinned girl, right? One of the main cast, the red hair girl, right? Um, it was okay that she kind of spoke in that sort of more monotone thing. Um, but then her emphases were very weird too. There was times where she says something like, "I just didn't want to bother you," and it's like that's not how anything in that sentence works. Sorry, like that's not how that emphasis.
That's
Why did you?
that is 100% how a human being speaks. I don't
Yeah,
know what
well,
you're talking about.
and then like Parsley, like the yellow hair girl, like sometimes kind of mushes like her words like together, and it's very like I don't know. She tries to do this weird like accent at times, but it's not. I don't know what sort of accent she's going for.
Yeah,
A lot of times it's not
I
working. Yeah,
cannot for the fucking life of me
yeah.
place
And
what that
whenever
accent's supposed to be. Like,
To
and
be
because
whenever
it's
they're
fair,
kind
not
of like
like
screaming,
Irish
it's not nice.
dwarven like
to
shit.
be fair, Parsley is the only character in the show I liked.
Also,
So
I did.
there's that.
Hmm. But yeah, it was very I don't know. It was mildly upsetting. Anyways, that aside, voice acting aside, I guess we should do this, right? We have to do this, I guess. But the story, the story.
Is
So
fucking non-existent.
no, well, okay. So here's
the story
let
is
me
Little
let's
Witch
okay.
Academia.
Let's be nuanced about it because it's like so. Here's a couple of things I noticed in the story where it's like first, so they have this academy setting, and that's very standard, right? But the interesting thing is, and it's actually relatively uncommon, and I don't think I've actually really seen it at all, that in terms of standard like anime media or even like Western media a lot of times, where or no, maybe it is. Okay,
Go for
so
it.
okay. So what I noticed was that the story is very heavily based, at least in the beginning, in the initial 6 episodes, of the girls kind of doing their school stuff, right? And a lot of the stories and the pacings and developments are based around them going through the classes, if that makes sense. Which is like to a person listening into this podcast right now, they'd be like, well, of course, they're in the academy. What do you expect? But that's actually not the structure that most series take, academies, series take when they're based upon like academy stuff. Stuff like, I want to say some, really anything, Rokudanashi, Infinite Stratos, so on, all these asterisks or whatever it is, right? Rakutai Kishi, billion of these really shitty
Yeah, but
academy based series, they don't have most of the stuff that you see in the anime, in the episode, in the manga chapters, whatever. The adventures are based upon them finishing up classes and then doing other stuff or interacting outside of the classes. And at most, like the classes are just kind of a jumping point to start something else. Or at best, they do something like a battle tournament and then they compete in it and stuff like that. But the classes are very rarely the central point of the story, which as it was in the initial 6 episodes of High Guardian Spice. Even Harry Potter, if you think about it, doesn't actually focus that much in classes. If you right, like think about it, the only
yeah,
things
but do you
that
know
they
what
Yeah,
series does
you know what
focus on
does?
classes quite a bit?
Little Witch
Little
Academia.
Witch
yeah,
Academia, the TV
both
series.
yeah, I mean, but
Both
in
of the
my opinion,
movies
even
as
Little
well.
Witch Academia doesn't focus as much as High Guardian Spice did.
It
And
literally follows the same exact like sort of, what would you call that, arc or whatever, or trajectory of High Guardian Spice, where it's like
yeah, but the thing is,
a lot of it
in
is
Little Witch
front
Academia, a
is
Little
like
Witch Academia, it kind of fills out to after the classes, right? Like where they solve the problem kind of like outside of like what's going on. But it's like a lot of the interactions in High Garden Spice are done within like during the class and everything. And what's
Spire, you realize the episode, which episode is it, where they get the fucking class assignment where they split up into groups and they're supposed to look for like the healing fucking fountain or whatever, right?
oh yeah, no, yeah, I saw that.
You
And I was
realize
like,
you
oh, I
realize
saw that. Yes,
that is literally
yes.
the first OVA of Little Witch Academia,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I saw that. I saw that. I
They
saw that. I
get
was
split
like,
up into groups.
you
They
can't
get
do
sent in.
that.
They get sent under this class into the ruins, and then shenanigans ensue when they get stuck. That's
Yeah, I saw
literally
that.
exactly beat for beat Little Witch Academia. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
That part I saw. I was like, that's not
I don't
how
know. I
that.
just think
No, you
between
guys
like
should do that.
that and like just the trajectory of how the series goes, of like, you have the first sort of half or so or whatever of being like the more classroom and like school oriented shit, and then you
Yeah.
build up to like the villain and like outside stuff more, which
But you don't
was
even
Little Witch
build.
Academia, the TV series.
Yeah. So okay, if I want to, if I could just finish, but it's like what it actually reminded me of this like very hard all in focus on what happens during the class. What it reminded me of was actually like, those early, like late 2000s, early 2010s TV shows where
Yeah,
like
Winx Club.
live, yeah, Winx Club. Like, I meant live action, like live action TV shows where kids are all like, there's a bunch of like teenage kids kind of just hanging around and doing like, with like either it's like supernatural powers or they're pulled into some sort of supernatural thing, or they're in school and they're doing something like a lot of those like B tier B rate live
Yeah,
action
like Teen
shows, right?
Wolf.
Yeah, yeah. Where they're in school, but then they're always like doing shit in the school. It kind of reminded me of
Like
that. So
Ned's
maybe like,
Declassified School Survival Guide.
so it kind of reminds me of that. Do you guys agree? It's like it kind of feels like that was the inspiration for where the creative juices were.
I'm pretty sure the inspiration was Little Witch Academia.
I
Not sure.
gotta disagree with you again. I see what you're getting at. I see what you're getting at, and they could have drawn some stuff from that. It is definitely not something you see super often,
Hmm.
but I still do think that the caveat is there that
It's
it's real close
it
to Little
really is
Witch
like
Academia.
it is like it is almost a spitting image of Little Witch Academia. Like, I get what you're saying, and I do kind of agree that like the concept is not very common,
Hmm.
but the like the comparison has to be made. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it's there. It's really unavoidable in my opinion. Um, because like there's just so many parallels. Um, like an alarming amount of parallels. But yeah,
I mean,
I do
the thing
agree.
is, I just
It's
think
not.
the structure. The structure in terms of like the academy setting, the witches kind of going around and fucking stuff up.
I mean, it's not
The
even just
nuance.
that. It's that. It's the like fucking motherly figure relic shit. There's the entire fact that it's new magic with tech versus old magic,
Yeah.
and the villain
Oh yeah,
comes in using new magic,
that part was
and
not
it's
good.
like,
Yeah.
all right. Um, and then we sprinkle a little bit of Ruby in there for like the school destruction arc. We just drop a little bit in there.
Right.
But yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
want to
I do
the
definitely
nuance I
agree
just want to mention was
that it
just
is
that.
not typical.
Yeah, because in my opinion, Little Witch Academia, I mean, the whole like academy setting aside, it's it's pretty standard in terms of like it's episodic, but it's relatively standard in what it does, like Little Witch Academia. Because again, a lot of it's just like, oh, like after school, I fucked up something because I was studying, some weird forbidden magic, and then wonky stuff happens, and then the entire episode is about them fixing it. Essentially, is how Little Witch Academia rolls. Um, but this one is a little bit, again. obviously it's copying a
Yeah,
lot of Little Witch Academia,
instead of
but it's
fixing it,
like
instead you get
they
lectured
they
on what a
they
transgender
transmutated
person.
into they added a part of it which was like Teen Wolf. It's
They
like
sit you
okay,
down.
that's
They sit you down like you're fucking 5 years old and explain to you what a
I don't
trans
know what that
person is
word
again.
is.
I don't know what that is. Hello.
And another thing that I want to mention is that the transition. So it was weird because I liked um well, I mean the whole like sage new magic thing, the whole magic thing was like I was just like, okay, you guys are kind of a little bit too on the nose here. But with in terms of like the nuance in how Parsley, right? Parsley's storyline of like the family like kind of wanting her back and being like,
Yeah.
yeah, all right, like High Guardian Academy is kind of whatever. That was an interesting thing, like nuance to go off of. Obviously, it wasn't like brand new, right? It wasn't like super novel, but
Yeah.
it was more realistic, and it was something that I think could have been developed a little bit better. Obviously, maybe they could have roped in a time with during that sort of development and then done something with like the contrast between the families or whatever. I think that would have been an interesting storyline to go off of. And that
I do think some of the character moments are pretty decent, but they
yeah.
feel very isolated.
Yeah,
Is the
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, there's another problem, another big problem I have is the as much as I shit on say light novel volumes, right? These days, where if you have like a light novel based upon some sort of rom com harem, right? Like you know how it's like each volume is sort of based upon like the main character saves this girl's cat from a tree, and that's like the entire volume. And then like
Mhm.
at the end, like the harem kind of gathers back, and it's like next volume he saves another girl's cat from a tree, and that's the entire volume and stuff like that. So as much as I kind of shit on that sort of thing, it's still much clearer and like the way mini arcs and like kind of specific harem character arcs are set up, that's
Yeah.
still more clear than whatever's going on here because
In
in
this
here
series, the harem doesn't even get back together. It's just like, yeah,
they're
I did
constantly
this
like in
I did
different
this
places and
thing.
constantly doing stuff. Yeah.
I did this thing, and now my character arc is over. Anyway, moving on. It's like, wait, what?
Or even within in each episode, right? Like there are three things constantly
Yeah,
going on,
like,
and they're constantly just cutting back and forth. It's
and
like
they're
Sage is saying something.
they're completely isolated,
Yeah.
and like a lot of the times, like the individual events happening don't even impact each other.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, they don't have value. That's a bit, or no, they don't. They not only do not impact each other, but like a lot of them just don't seem to have value in and of themselves, right? Where it's like what is it? It's like there's Sage kind of like talking about blah, 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 and it's like, and then she's about to kind of go into this like character development moment, like this introspection, right? And then boom, that gets cut off, and now Rosemary's talking about what's a transgender, what's even a transgender, what is that word with like the teacher, and then
When are we
that's
getting
going
in?
on for like
Can we
and then
get
that's
into
going on
that?
for like 10 minutes. Like that explanation goes on for 10 minutes with neither real development from Rosemary nor real, like, fleshing out of the actual character behind like Caraway, Professor Caraway, or whoever the transgender character is, right? She like the character itself, like beyond being a transgender, doesn't really get fleshed out within that 10-minute talk, right? And then that gets cut off, and we go to
What do
Parsley,
you mean,
and
dude? They totally get fleshed out. They knew the main character's mom,
yeah,
and
that's
also they're transgender.
and then it cuts off to Parsley, and now you're already dizzy because you're trying to handle Sage's whatever's going on here and Rosemary's thing in like one episode. And now you go to Parsley, and Parsley's, dealing with her family issues or whatever, and then you get cut off and say, like, we need to juggle this in a proper way and give each of them proper development impact value that it deserves, and we can't have every episode be like some sort of Yosuga no Sora omnibus thing, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right? Where it's like you watch for a couple
Yeah.
of episodes and then it cuts to another round and you're like, wait a minute, that's not how this anime adaptation should work. Or stuff like that. So it's very it just cuts off. It's very hectic, and none of it kind of is coherently, it doesn't, none of it packs a punch, right? None of the individual messages pack a punch, and everything's kind of all wrapped up together. It's very unfortunate.
it feels very like checkboxing. Like they're
Yeah.
literally just like, this character needs character development. We're gonna put them through a character arc. You know what I mean? It's not like
Or but it's like that, but it's not even like
But it's not
they
towards
really go
any
to the effort.
goal. It's
They,
it's
they they
also
don't even
yeah,
not
go to
towards
the
a
effort of
goal.
doing that properly. It's not like they give Parsley like 2-3 episodes to really do all of her shit,
yeah,
right?
they give her like a third of an episode.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem I have where it's like, yeah, I mean, Japan does that thing where it's like they give an entire volume to just being like, "Oh, I made Tsundere Ojo-sama, but then I fell in love with this other guy because he's honest," or whatever it is. Like they give her the volume, and that can be cheesy too. But they don't even give her that amount of time to do anything. It's like, what? So it's very jumbled. And then what is it? Fuck. I wanted to get back to that point of why Dark and I kept describing the sort of the initial half and the latter half of the season. And this is another major problem I had where for 6 episodes, right, it was all about the school and them kind of running around and doing Little Witch Academia stuff and you know the character development starting up, and I was like, okay, well, I guess this is going. If maybe they could add in some more parsley and time moments, and then wrap up the Sage thing real quick, and then maybe Rosemary will probably have like a character crisis in like episode 11 or something like that, and then run away or something like that, right? Maybe that would be like an interesting way to kind of round out the latter half, and then suddenly, literally just all of a sudden, I'm not even kidding. There is no transition to this really. From episode 6 is like all school. Episode 7 is something just like suddenly everything is at stake. If you fuck this up, you lose your guardianship, and it's like suddenly the bad guy appears and blah 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 blah. I'm like, what the like? At
Yeah,
least give me like
dude.
a
That's the
crumb of
fucking
foreshadowing.
that's the
Like
trigger inspiration at work, dude.
that's true. I apologize. It was like the rest, and then episode 7 through 12 is just all suddenly this evil guy or the cat girl appears, and then the evil guy Mandrake, right? I believe is his name, appears and does all this stuff. And it's like, what? We need to bridge this, right? We can't. We like first of all, the latter half of the season really it's not that valuable. It's just like a bunch of like bad things are happening and the main girls need to kind of step up and do whatever, right? And it's not that impressive. Second, where's the transition? Where is the transition?
It was during
Why
the
did it go from
festival when the cat girl shows up and they have a fight. There you go. There's your
yeah,
transition.
Basically, yeah.
Blood is shown. Now it's all
first
fucking
blood, yeah.
full speed ahead. A character got cut. Kinda. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there you go. Rose fucking tasted blood.
Yeah.
Now it's fucking go time.
It was extremely unfortunate. I was just like, fuck is going on? And again, it's just like you didn't need to do this, right? It could have been a smaller, like, I mean, if it was like how it was panned out in the first 6 episodes, in my opinion, it would have been even better for the kids, right? Because you could have weaved in the character development arcs. You could have done a little bit more of like the what is a transgender, blah 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 stuff, right? You could have even thrown that in and just kind of just finished and ended up all the 4 characters kind of character development stuff, and then they walk into the sunset, or maybe even there's like a foreboding kind of like a setup at the end of episode 12 where there's just like, oh, they're going to meet up with some evil villain up ahead or something like that, and that sets up for season 2 or whatever it is. They could have done a bunch of things. Why did it have to happen like this? It's just very confusing. It was not good. It was not good.
I mean,
But
again,
yeah.
is also very reminiscent of like fucking. I can't remember if it was volume 1 or 2 of Ruby, where they're just like, "All right, villain, it's go time. School
All
blown
right.
up.
Doing
School gone."
we were fucking doing stuff. It was very unpleasant.
I mean, we haven't really addressed the elephant in the room either, though.
Oh,
the diversity, the messaging.
Be very careful about what you want to say in here. What did you want to say?
I mean, so again, going back to
Yes.
the initial announcement of this series, right?
Yes.
Um, it is set up to be a very diverse cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the way they pitched it, I guess, was essentially to I forget what their exact wordings were, but they were essentially trying to relate real life issues in a fantasy world, yada yada yada, right?
Yes.
Um, but they don't do that in the series, right? They really don't
Yeah.
do that.
Parsley was the closest they got, honestly.
Yeah, but like even then, not really. Like
Yeah.
let's be real.
That
But
lasted for
like
like 5 minutes.
yeah, like pretty much all of the character moments in the series that are supposed to represent, diversity and facing adversity due to um, you know, maybe you identify as trans or you're not a typical, cis male and you're challenging some gender norms, stuff like that. A lot of this stuff is treated at absolute face value, right? It is 100% skin deep. It never goes beyond
Like
like
textbook kind of stuff.
there is literally a line where like God, it's in the episode where they're going through like the obstacle course, right? Where
Yes.
um Sage, right? She teams up with the pink haired bully dude, right?
Yes.
Um and there's literally an interaction where I'm pretty sure it's like Sage literally says like boys aren't supposed to talk about their feelings. And then the pink haired bully dude says, like, I guess I'm challenging some gender norms, huh? And it's like, this is awful. This is some of the worst fucking writing and like some of the worst dialogue like you can imagine. Especially if you're trying to write like diverse characters. Like the way you write a diverse cast isn't by going, I'm transgender and like, yeah, I uh, I'm a boy, but I want to wear paint on my nails. Isn't that weird? I am so kooky. It's like, dude, fucking shut up. Okay? Like you can present characters that are insecure about, the way they want to express themselves and, maybe they're not sure if people will accept them like in a certain way. But you can't just be like, yeah, I'm transgender and I just take a funny magic potion once a month and like that's literally it. That's
Oh,
literally
do you
my
know?
entire
Okay, yeah.
character.
Listen.
I don't face any I don't face any issues. I don't have any, like doubts
Yeah,
or I
no
don't face any
internal
struggles
turmoil.
at all.
The
Like
potion has
it's
no side effects, as we know in
it's
real
literally
life.
just
It's
it's
as
just
easy as
I'm
one, two,
transgender.
three.
I take a potion. It's that easy. And then for the bully's character arc, it's like, yeah, I'm not a typical like like the typical male gender norm. And then he has the okay. I think the moment where he's talking to the purple haired girl, the other bully, where he's like, would you still like he's talking about like how pretty her nails are or whatever. And he's like, would you still like me if I did that too? And I think that was like an okay moment of like, you know, someone kind of be like, would you accept me if I like branched out and expressed myself more?
Hmm.
And, obviously that goes beyond and they end up coming out more. Um but like when you're writing dialogue that's just like, yeah, I'm challenging gender norms. Aren't I fucking cool? It's like,
No.
this isn't how people speak. This isn't how human beings interact with each other. Like, it's just awful. Um,
You know what this conversation really reminds me of, and it's not just again, it's just kind of like show that we're not. It's not that we're just shitting on like the Western like identity politics and stuff like that, but the sort
No,
of
I mean it's not.
insensitivity.
It's not
No,
even
well,
shitting on
let me
that.
finish. Let
It's
me
the
finish.
matter
Let me
of
finish.
like,
Insensitivity. It's sort of the insensitivity, right, of how they're approaching the manner, right? But it really reminds me of the conversations that we had with more recently Dark on Kageki Shoujo, right? When he was talking about like how the girls were kind of going through the problems, and it was like, yeah, I'm just kind of done with what is it like
yeah, I've
anorexia, right?
solved
Or whatever.
my trauma over being
Yeah,
molested.
exactly,
Like,
exactly. And it was very like
it's like
casual, and then
it's only been a
secondly,
20-minute episode. That's
yeah, exactly, just casually solved this
like,
sort
okay,
of
that's a
like
lot to
this sort of
unpack, but sure.
yeah. And then my also recently my review of 86, right, where that which was that sort of it was that I think it was like a World War II or World War One setting or something like that, and then it was the main themes were just like racism, like baseball or classism or whatever it is, right? And it was
Uh-huh.
me kind of going on this rant about how people could do much, like Japan could do so much more than just a very like green eggs and ham view of racism and how people view each other through the lens of like being discriminated and stuff like that. And it seems very similar to that, where it's just you could have done more, right? You just could have done more, especially since it took 3 years to do this. You could have done more.
I mean, I feel like for High Gunnery and Spice, you could have done you. It's not even more. Like, you could have done
You could have
something.
done anything.
Anything.
Like,
Yeah,
Literally
like that's
anything.
the thing. Like with the trans character, that's what pisses me off about it. It's that it
yeah.
doesn't
There's
do
literally
anything.
nothing. There is absolutely nothing that relates the struggles that a trans person goes through in today's society
Uh huh.
with this world. It's literally just this character's trans, fucking girl boss. Like that's
Yeah,
it.
it's all. It doesn't even. It like it's not. It doesn't even make sense for its own world. Like, they present it in a way where they're like, yeah, I'm trans. This is what it means. I drink a potion every month, and it's like, that's not how transitioning works. Transitioning is not polymorphing yourself to a different to a different fucking like physical gender.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not some like snap your fingers thing.
yeah,
Simple
it's
as
not like you
I have
it's
no
not like
issues.
you stop your hormone therapy while transitioning and all of a sudden pop back to what you fucking were, like, hormonally, before you transitioned, like, or began. There's a reason why it's called transitioning. You don't like you don't poof back. Like, that is like, so even this character saying trans and then
Mhm.
having the scenario of, I drink a fucking polymorph potion every month. Like, that doesn't why are you
Yeah,
called
it's
trans then? Like, you're not that's not trans. You drink a fucking polymorph potion. Like, you're just polymorphing yourself. Like, it's not
yeah.
it's just it's so it sucks because it's like it doesn't and then it doesn't do anything for the character. Like, they don't talk about they don't even talk about like rejections from their peers or like fucking
There is literally not even a single hint of the trans struggle in this series. Like
yeah, it's just like, if you were gonna introduce this, like, why introduce this idealized like world in this lens and then lecture people on it? You know, like, because it's fine. It would be fine to have a trans character, or like, in this like a polymorphed fucking like character, work this way in a fantasy world. Like, it's perfectly fine to do that,
Yeah.
but you can't lecture people on it then when it's this idealized world with magic that you can just, again, drink a fucking potion and that's it. Like,
yeah,
there's no
everything's hunky
struggle for
dory.
me though. Like, okay, so then why did you sit us down for this? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
there
that's
were
I
not
think
how
the
the
idea of
world
like
functions that you're
caraway
trying to tell
was
us
okay.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's a fine idea to do to use. It's just that,
The
for me, the
execution's
you,
awful.
you need to
execution
do
was
something with
like
it. Like
offensive, honestly. Like,
yeah,
to
Yeah.
to
it's
be
super
like, I'm not
condescending. It
five.
talks
Like,
down to you like you're a fucking child. Like like the average viewer literally is like like literally does not comprehend what a transgender person
What's a
is.
transgender? Oh my
And
god, that
then
lie was
and then
so bad.
and then it has the gall to explain like transgender people in literally the most cis manner possible. Where it's like, yeah, I was born in the wrong body. It's like trans people don't like say that. Like that's not it's not really like it's not like some thing where trans people are like, yeah, I'm like living in the wrong body. It's like no, they just they just prefer to identify as something else, right? Like
Yeah, and
Well,
it's
like
it's
like well, it's
mentally,
not so
they're
much. It's
headed.
not
Yeah.
because it's not so much like because I think the show. I think what the line specifically is I was born in. Was it like? Did the show literally say I was like a man born in a woman's body or something, or like yeah I was born in
yeah,
the
pretty
wrong
much
body?
yeah.
And it's like it is such a it is yeah, like Nira said, it is such a weirdly like cis thing where I was telling him like the only time I ever hear that phrasing said is in like some was in like newscasts on it like fucking a decade ago or more of like trans people are think of a man born in the body of a woman. It's like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's
Especially
like
says
that's
80s writing. Yeah.
yeah, it's very like a very
Out of touch.
dated, yeah, an out of touch take on like what the experience is known to be. And just again, it is that thing like it is a very sanitized like look at it with this idealized world where I guess you could say as this person, oh, I was born in the wrong body, so I'm going to pop a fucking potion and everything's okay. But unfortunately, that's not how being trans actually functions. So to call it that is just not like it's just not correct. Like it's not a good thing to do.
I mean, I don't know. Again, it's just like they literally don't do anything with it outside of condescend to the viewer. Like that's literally the only purpose of the scene. Like, it doesn't. The character doesn't really go through anything related to that. So I'm not really sure what value that scene has, um, other than just being like, yeah, this world has trans people. Deal with it. It's like,
Which again are also for some
okay.
reason referred to as trans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's
I mean,
just like,
yeah, just like world building wise too, it's a fucking travesty. Because like again, they're called trans, but it's like polymorph potion. And also somehow Rosemary doesn't know about this. And it's as easy as just drinking a fucking poly potion every 30 days. Like I can't imagine at that point that is something that is uncommon, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just like I don't
yeah,
know.
really, really, all I was trying to get across is just that, like, for a show that, like, clearly its goal was like the initial goal they set out to have was a diverse cast that, you know, sort of put on display the trials and tribulations that, you know, maybe people of color or people of different sexual orientations or, or transgender people, sorry, like the struggles they go through in sort of a more fantasy world that helps the viewer relate those struggles to real life. But they did not do that in the slightest. It is very surface level. It feels very token, um, and it's almost offensive. Like, you know, obviously, I'm not really, I'm not trans, so I can't exactly speak as an authority. But I feel like if like a production team
Mhm.
came to me with the idea of you know boosting trans representation in media. In this case,
Yes.
quote unquote anime, right? And literally the only trans representation I got was a character going, "I'm trans," in a 12 episode series. I'd be kind of pissed off, I think, right?
Mhm.
Like that seems kind of fucked up. Um so yeah, I mean that's really all I wanted to say. It's just that like
Yeah.
it feels like a complete failure of the initial goal to show uh, a diverse cast. Um,
Mhm.
it just feels like a complete abject failure.
Yeah. Again, it's very unfortunate that it just again 3 years for this, and obviously it's not exactly a great face for a company who's already not known for being the most awesome company in the world or whatever. But I guess that's the hole they dug themselves into. So it's whatever. Um. So story down. We have pretty much the entire, I guess, idea of High Guardian Spice aside, and I don't think we really need to think about, talk about the overall whatever happened because it's pretty obvious what we overall think of it. It's been a disappointment, right?
It's not good.
Yeah. So I just want to transition into a sort of a shorter segment on just Crunchyroll, and I want to start off by saying, what do you think is the future of Crunchyroll with regards to doing this sort of stuff, doing more collaborations and originals, and trying to make more like anime original stuff, like on their own terms ish? But I mean, it's not like Crunchyroll this was like an inside job really from Crunchyroll, right? Because the executive director was asking around different studios. It's just that they got money from Crunchyroll. That's sort of how that worked, right?
I
Is
But
that
mean,
it's
how
not
this
like a
yeah,
worked
bunch of
for
Crunchyroll people
High
were like,
Guardian
"Yeah, we're gonna
yeah.
Spice?
do stuff." Yeah,
This wasn't like internally produced by
yeah.
Crunchyroll.
It was an
It's not like
external person.
Crunchyroll has fucking animators working for them. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it was just a team came to Crunchyroll
Mm.
and Crunchyroll was like, sure. It just so happened that this is basically the first project that Crunchyroll decided to publicly greenlight um, under their, I guess, like Crunchyroll Originals uh, umbrella. Um, Although at the time, I think I'm not sure if necessarily they were already in the works for the Crunchyroll Originals lineup, or
Mhm,
if it was like the original intended goal to do projects like this, where
mhm,
you know, um, Western studios or maybe Eastern studios as well come to Crunchyroll and they collaborate through funding, whatever, um, to create projects like this. Um, but I feel like the initial backlash, just to the first announcement of High Guardian Spice, uh, could have maybe, if it wasn't already in the works, pushed them to do like the what we have now with Crunchyroll Originals, where it's
uh-huh.
basically just them slapping the Crunchyroll name onto projects
They're
that
just trying to become
probably
as
would have
big as
already
possible.
come out, right?
They're just trying to do this weird thing where, like, they're kind of putting all of their money into as much, like, marketing and doing weird projects that'll get their name out there as possible from my perspective, at least from an outside perspective. It's like names that'll sort of get them out there as much as possible, and it's not really much money on the actual, like, their central stuff, which is licensing and proper localization. And that's, I think, part of the reason, obviously, because they got their name out there as the anime people, right? That's how they sort of got scooped up by, Sony and so on in the first place, right? And that sort of model makes it so that they're always kind of saying they're doing stuff. They're saying they're doing blah blah blah. And not only does that oftentimes not work out in the best way, but again, the central idea of localizing series, getting the licensing rights, um, subbing and dubbing these properly, right? If you're working with an animation studio, maybe providing them you know, uh, an offer that will be, you know, working with AT&T or Sony or whoever or Warner Bros or whoever, right, is their company, being like, and working with other production companies and being like, hey, let's give the anime studio a much better offer than what the anime studios usually get paid, like how we talked about before in our roundtable, right, about the anime
Yeah.
industry. Let's give them a proper offer because that's what our messaging is, right? We want to give them a good offer beyond what they usually get, and let's have them make XYZ, right? But I don't think any of that is going on really. Just seems all of it like a mess,
Yeah.
right?
Right now, I feel like Crunchyroll is basically just dipping its fingers into as many pies as possible,
To get
right?
messaging, yeah, to get
Yeah.
promote their name, they want to be it's kind of like how Uber worked, right? Where it's like it's not like Uber was super dominant before, but just because everybody was like Uber, 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 and they just try to spread at an uncontrollable rate, right? They started pushing out actual taxi drivers because of the name.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, they came and they spread out first, and then after they squeezed everybody out, they squeezed out the competition, then they could just start doing whatever, and then they kind of in Uber's case, they shit the bed, and Crunchyroll's case, they'll also probably shit the bed, right? But that's sort of what they're doing. They're just trying to spread as much as possible, get the name out, squeeze out the competition, and then they'll maybe, quote, unquote, "do something," but not really.
Yeah, but I guess in this case, it's more of uh, Crunchyroll got bought up by the competition, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
But I
and
mean, in that case, they sort of quote unquote wanted to, right? They sort of
yeah, of
wanted to be
course,
bought up. Yeah.
they were definitely they definitely it's beneficial for Crunchyroll to be owned uh by Sony, right? I think because Sony owns Funimation, and you know them being under the same umbrella company, I think gives Crunchyroll uh probably more power than it had when it wasn't owned by Sony. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just because they're under the same umbrella, and now Crunchyroll probably doesn't really have to worry at all about what Funimation is doing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because they're probably constantly in communications with each other now. So yeah, it's a bit of a different scenario than pushing out other competition, and more of essentially like having the competition be forced to work with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
But at the end of the day, like, they want their sort of market share, right? I mean, it sounds obvious because yeah, like every company obviously wants
yeah,
to
of
be the dominant
course.
market share, but it's like the
It's just
way
the
they're
way,
doing it.
yeah, the way Crunchyroll is doing it is essentially just kind of slapping their name on as many projects as possible right now.
We are anime. Yeah, they're just
Yeah.
like yeah, it's very and it's the thing is even that wouldn't be as bad if it wasn't for the fact that it's central sort of projects, right? It's central sort of services in terms of localization, the fan dubs, the fan stuff, or why did I say fan dubs? But the official dubs, the official subs, the general sort of licensing, official localization, putting that on a central platform that works well. Operative phrase works well. uh, it's just all of that's just so bad. It's just not good, and people keep justifying it every time. Not only obviously they keep saying the bunk like, oh, it helps the anime industry or whatever it is, right? That fucking bullshit. But then beyond that, they were just like, well, you know, it's the only anime place. Like, what else is there? Crunchyroll is good because they got the license to Sword Art Online, bro. It's like, come on, man. Like, we can't be in a place like that, right? This is not a good head place to be in. It's upsetting. Dark, you want to speak up on defense of Crunchyroll?
Yeah, I think they're a really good deal. I think their video player. Well,
God.
I guess to be fair, I haven't used it in like 5 years.
Yeah.
No, way more than that now, actually. But
Are you saying you're
you know,
not
for,
subscribed to
for
Crunchyroll?
years, for
Yeah.
years and years, Crunchyroll's fucking player would just crash whenever you pause it for more than like 2 minutes. So
Brilliant.
yeah, really incredible stuff, even on that end.
Yeah.
As far as this goes, I feel like I don't know if they're gonna do something like this again.
Yeah, I
I really
feel
don't think
like
they're
the
gonna stick
blowback.
their neck out
You don't think
anymore.
we're getting a season 2?
No, you know it ended to where you could. No.
So what my thought is that they won't do something obvious like this again. It is my guess. It's like I think they'll keep trying to, obviously Crunchyroll original will expand, especially since they'll just, I think a lot of times they'll just try to get like big name like webcomic stuff again, like Tower of God or Noblesse or whatever it
Yeah.
is, or God, and kind of just try to wing it. But I think, and this is just my prediction or my spidey sense, I think they'll try something like this down the line, and then kind of again just try to use that as another sort of promotional like platform to jump off of. Just be like, hey, we're really anime guys. We're all everything anime related you could possibly think of. Blah 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 blah. And but they'll try to be very much more subtle about it. I think they'll try to run something like a Star Wars Visions. You know what I mean? Where they're kind of leaving a lot of the ideas up to the studios, but then they'll just kind of give them, it'll be like one of those board games, right? Or like those family night games where it's like you have like a word and then they have to guess what it is or they do something off of it, right? So they'll give them a word and it'll be like gender relations and then like Studio Trigger or like Sato or
Yeah.
Science Star or whoever
Yeah,
will
the
make
the
like
Japanese hear that and go, "I don't know what that is."
Yeah, and then they have to watch High Guardian Spice. There you go.
Yeah,
They'll fucking
exactly.
learn something. Learn how to
Yeah.
make a
I,
good anime.
I think Star Wars Visions set up an interesting example for Crunchyroll to potentially follow, but I think the lure of like Crunchyroll having that one sort of badge on their sort of vest, right? Being like, yeah, but we also really quote unquote make anime. Although I mean, again, they do actually make anime in terms of like kind of helping it with production, I guess, being part of one of the production companies in the Crunchyroll originals, right? But in terms of like, in the eye of the average Sword Art Online,
Consumer.
yeah, consumer really making anime by inputting in quote unquote decisions. And I think they'll want that sort of badge of honor question mark in their on their vest. So I think they'll go for it one more time
I
just to
mean,
be
do
like,
you think they want do you think they want the so because what I'm thinking is Crunchyroll wants its own IP. You know what I mean?
yes, yes,
Um,
absolutely.
like they
Not even a
they
question.
like they want a franchise. Um,
Yes. By the way,
and
can I add a disclaimer? As asterisk, with as little money as possible. It's like the Twitch kind
of
of thing. It's
course,
like
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
as little by yeah, exactly. That's an important part.
Um, but yeah, they want something to pump out.
Yes.
Um, that you know gets uh decent feedback and then they can sell whatever the fuck, right? Merchandise.
They can
Fuck,
show it as like we
We
make
already
anime
had
yeah,
for real.
they
Crunchyroll
can.
Hime, the VTuber.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean they have the mascot, but it's like like
Yeah,
I feel like
this will be their complete transformation.
Crunchyroll's probably going to make steps to either make like their mascot the main character of some sort of fucking anime, or
They'll
at
probably
the,
do
at
the
the
do the whole
very
like VTuber
least,
like movie OVA kind of thing that some
yeah, they're gonna
VTuber
have some
companies do.
sort
Yeah,
of short, right? Like they're gonna have something where
yeah,
the fucking Crunchyroll Hime mascot is doing some fucking epic anime battle bullshit,
yeah.
and then they're gonna try to turn that into like, yeah, yeah, guys, we make anime, we are so fucking cool, and
We're
it's like,
so anime. Oh my
yeah,
god.
um, and they're gonna have that along with, their fucking 6 million fingers dipped into all the pies in the world. You know, they're they've got their fucking name on like anime conventions now, and like
You
they've
guys
just
remember that
they're
interview where
everywhere.
it's like where somebody was like, I think one of the Japanese like directors in the studios were like, the Crunchyroll people, we just like laughed at them or something like that.
Yeah,
They like gave them the cards. Like Crunchyroll gave everybody in the room like their cards, but then they were just like laughed out or something like
yeah, yeah.
that.
I mean,
Fuck it.
let's be real. It doesn't really matter uh how many projects Crunchyroll slaps their name on. They're
Yeah.
probably always going to be the laughing stock of the anime industry.
Japanese
'Cause,
studio just wants them to give them their money and fuck
yeah,
off.
they just want the
Fucking gaijin
money
pigs.
and
Yeah,
like get out of my face. Like
yeah. It's like Skip.
yeah, like you're here to give us money and like make it so the dirty disgusting pirates can be wiped off the face of the earth.
Manually.
Um yeah,
Manually.
manually one by one. Um but like, you know, uh, the Japanese anime industry does not give a shit about
Yeah.
Crunchyroll, right? Like
Yeah.
that. Let's be real. They probably never will. Um,
Especially since they have nowadays, since they seem to be a little bit more aware of how to globally promote stuff, right? They're not very good at globally distributing stuff, but they're
yeah,
better at globally promoting stuff. And I think that'll especially be boosted after the obvious success of Mugen Train, right?
of
So,
course.
yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah,
Wait,
I
what do
just
you
think
mean the success of Mugen Train?
What do you mean?
Is that airing on Crunchyroll? I thought that was just
Yeah,
Netflix.
I apologize. Sorry, we're talking about the wrong company. It doesn't. That area doesn't
Yeah, that's
exist.
I
I
was gonna say
apologize.
that's Netflix. Like
I apologize. That doesn't exist. No, wait.
Crunchyroll has JoJo.
Yeah, that's true. That's the more important thing we should be looking
well,
at.
no, Netflix has JoJo now.
Oh,
Oh, really?
really?
They?
Yeah, part
Okay,
part
Damn.
six is airing on Netflix.
bro.
Ooh,
This is
ooh.
like console wars these days. You know, where it's
I
like
mean,
which is
it is right. Like
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I talked about this
Oh, okay. Did
in
you? I
the
apologize. Yeah.
in the in the roundtable, I think,
Mhm,
because the way I described it was basically like Netflix really just has to get the big hitters, right? Like they just
mhm.
have to get JoJo, Demon Slayer,
Yeah,
stuff
no,
like
I
that,
remember
right?
this conversation. Yes,
Um,
yes.
and like as long as they do that, they're basically like they could be the top dogs, right? Obviously, Crunchyroll is going to nab up anything it could possibly get. Um, obviously,
Who's
some of those.
ReZero? Who's ReZero?
I think Funimation has ReZero.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I was thinking, right? Yeah, okay.
I
Okay.
think, but
I'm not, my memory is okay, okay. Okay.
but yeah, like Funimation and Crunchyroll are gonna nab up like everything they can get, and obviously some of those are gonna be hits, some of those are gonna be like fucking complete misses. Um, but I feel like Netflix definitely has like they're picky, right? Like they're you know while like Funimation and Crunchyroll are like net fishing,
Mhm.
like Netflix is like spear fishing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're getting like the one big one. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I do think Crunchyroll is probably right now. It's just like It's trying to cast as wide a net as possible, put its name on as many projects as it can. And I do think like their goal right now is to get like their own IP they can like push really hard. And call me crazy, I don't think High Guardian Spice is it.
You don't think High Guardian Spice is gonna like bump up their fucking valuation? Like you don't think that's gonna like
No,
skyrocket them?
I don't think
Come this December 31st, they're going to be talking about it in all
Yeah,
the investor
the
briefs. Yeah.
multi-trillion-dollar company now,
Yeah.
Crunchyroll, due only to High Guardian Spice.
Yeah, I mean, it's got what? High Guardian Space has a 1.4 on IMDb. It's
What's this mouse
2.1.
score? The mouse score is the
It's not
important
on
part
mall.
here.
It's not on mall. It's not
It's
anime.
not on mall.
It's not on mall.
Not anime.
What? Wait,
Not
really?
anime.
Not anime.
Did people react to that? Did people react to that?
Well, people
I
did
don't-
I feel
say
like
someone did say like, why isn't this on mall? Like it sucks
Oh,
dick, and I
shit.
want more people to know about that.
Yeah, I think it being on mall would be pretty fun because like it would be
It would be
obviously
bomb.
It would probably
be
be one
rated.
of the lowest
It would
rated
be a
series,
review
if
bomb.
not
It would
the
absolutely be a
lowest
review
Absolutely,
bomb.
rated.
of course. I mean, like fucking Ishizoku reviewers got like it literally got like above fucking Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood at one point.
Really?
Because
Yes.
just because of dumbasses giving it a 10 out of 10. And
Fucking
obviously
retarded.
over time it is normalized. It's at like a
Yeah.
fucking 7 now, which is still way too high. But like yeah, like dumbasses were like giving it 10 out of 10s because fucking Funimation pulled it, right? But yeah, like right now it's sitting at a cool 2.1 out of 5 on Crunchyroll itself. So I don't think
With episode 1 having swaths of fucking deleted comments.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I'm pretty sure like I mean if Crunchyroll like has the time to delete comments on My Guardian Spice episodes, like
They don't have time to devote to better voice acting
yeah.
or subs or
But I mean, like
anything. Okay.
they're seeing the negative feedback. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
they know this is an absolute fucking bomb. Like this is not something that's worth investing more money into, unless they've got like some sort of fucking contract with this like team. In which case, it's probably a bad move on Control's part.
I am
But
curious though, because Onyx Equinox came out quite a while ago,
yeah,
and it's also quite fucking horrendous. So
yeah.
it's like, I mean, I guess maybe this was so far along that they were like, we can't cut our losses. Like we have to
Well, they
just
probably get a
fucking get
contract,
this
right?
out.
Like
Mhm.
they I mean, it was definitely it's probably most likely a thing of like um Crunchyroll gave them the money up front, more than likely, right, to fund production. And regardless of how bad production was going, which more than likely Crunchyroll saw, like I'm sure they saw like how fucked up it was going to be, when they put it up. Um, like they still have to put it out, right? Because they've invested the money in making it. And regardless of how bad it does, like
Mhm.
they have to put it out because
Yeah. You have to get something from it.
not putting it out loses them more money than putting it out,
Yeah.
realistically, right?
Yes.
Because I'm sure Crunchyroll made a solid amount of money just in ad revenue from people fucking watching this series for free, right? Like, um, but like I don't know. It's definitely one of those things where like Crunchyroll's probably looking at this and be like, okay, we're not doing this again. And if we are investing money into another like Western animation studio, like we're probably going to like really look at like what we're putting. Because I don't know, like it was just doomed from the start. I think, given the announcement trailer, and
Mhm.
like, backlash aside, because again, the announcement trailer was really like the worst trailer you could have possibly put out for a series like this. You know, just the individuals involved are like magnets for backlash. Like, let's be honest. Um, there are certain audiences that like it literally doesn't matter what you are making. Like if you're rocking that aesthetic and you're using uh that vocabulary, you're going to get uh
But are you
love.
are you are you are you potentially referring to or sort of sort of these references? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
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 All
Yeah.
right. All right. No.
A
No.
certain
I.
a certain group of gamers.
Okay.
Yeah. Some freaks, if you will.
Hey. Hey.
Uh, but yeah, like hopefully Crunchyroll uh views this as a learning experience, and
Yes.
they don't
Like
make
unironically, but yeah, yeah,
another
yeah.
one.
Like an
Like,
actual like they're going. I think they are going
yeah,
to aim for another one. I do agree.
yeah, they're definitely an aim for another IP. But after, because I forget, was fucking X Arms was Crunchyroll original, right? Like,
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe it
yeah.
was.
Um, so they've had quite a number of.
Their
Yeah, they've
batting
had
average is
they've
incredible.
had quite a number of failures under the Crunchyroll Originals IP.
I mean, the only ones that
Um,
quote unquote survived, and even they didn't really survive that well, were the ones that like were adapted from much like very
yeah,
big
out of high
webtoons and stuff.
school.
Yeah.
Um,
Even
Tower of God.
Tower of God didn't survive very well, or even The
Yeah, I mean,
Blessed. Neither of those survived very
I
well.
think Tower of God was received fairly decently, just because
Yeah.
it's a very very famous fucking.
Yeah, it's a huge series.
Um, but yeah, in my opinion, Tower of God didn't really turn out too good. But um, yeah, like their first like wave, I guess, of these Crunchyroll originals has not uh it has not met with the best of reception.
Mm,
So they might be uh looking at maybe restructuring how exactly they're doing Crunchyroll originals, like plan. Um Maybe they're going to push for more uh oversight in what exactly they're putting money into. I don't know. But uh if I was, you know, a bigwig over at Crunchyroll, and I was seeing like all this negative backlash over, projects that you know companies funding, uh, I definitely probably want a restructuring of like how things are working, uh,
mm,
with that initiative in mind. Um,
yeah.
so ideally, Crunchyroll does that. Um, but, Crunchyroll is not exactly known for the smartest of business decisions. Um, they've kind of failed upwards for a while now. Um, but we'll see, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, definitely an interesting um series of events.
Interesting is definitely. I'm thankful that you're using this sort of word choice, but yeah, I do agree that
Yeah,
it is. All right. Dark, do you have any last words on the whole Crunchyroll thing before we wrap up?
I think they'll make the same mistake again.
Well, undoubtedly they'll be
I
not.
think
Yeah.
they'll just keep making the same mistake in perpetuity, to be honest.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're
I
always
think
gonna
they'll
have like
keep
I
making
think they're just
mistakes,
gonna
but
keep
yeah, the same
they're gonna
mistakes.
keep pumping out like one fucking thing that's just like at least that's you're just like what is this? Like what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Um I don't know.
What upsets me
I
is
think
like
they have to be like some kind of bloated fucking mess of like expansion and money that they can't handle.
yeah.
And
Well,
like
you know what upsets me though is like even giving studios these new projects doesn't really help them, because if you keep remembering, like in a lot of these interviews, people keep saying, like the executive, the directors and stuff like that, and the heads of like the studios keep saying every project, pretty much every most projects, like anime projects that they do, like in the contract style, right, in the production company contract style, goes in the red, except for specifically the hit anime projects that give them enough money to do the stuff that puts them in the red, right? So actually giving them these contracts won't really help the studios that much, unless the stuff in the contract is enough to cover for all of the money that's required for doing the stuff in the first
Yeah.
place. Maybe that's part of why Crunchyroll originals are so shitty, because the Japanese studios are literally just like, the moment that the contract stops, boom, we're not working on it. Fuck this. You know what I mean? It's like we're just doing a shoddy job on it and it's finishing up, right?
Yeah.
Or my charge
Or
time is done. My charge hours are over on this
yeah,
project.
or the money that they're getting is just like it's not worth the effort. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly. So that's what I'm thinking. But it's like, necessarily for people who might think this way, just giving them more like stuff to do, more like anime studios more stuff to do, doesn't necessarily mean that they're winning out, because the idea is the contract needs to give them more money than whatever they're putting in, essentially. That's again, which again, a lot of studios keep saying we're in the red except for whatever our hit projects are. So unfortunate. But let's finish up then. We don't want to beat the dead horse too long. But just, I guess, any closing words on just Crunchyroll, High Guardian Spice, all of this debacle? Let's start with Dark.
I wish it was worse. You know,
What do you mean? You
like
want
it
to
was
elaborate?
bad, but it wasn't X-Arm bad, which is unfortunate. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't
it was laughably bad.
laughably like horrible.
Hmm.
It was like it was like disappointingly bad. Where it's like, damn, couldn't even like remotely do what you were trying to do. You know, like I forget who said it. Like I think Toast when I'd spoken to Toast earlier today, this morning actually. Um, he was like, he said something about it's just like trying to push an agenda, but it's like not even doing that properly.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like you're trying to push for this thing, but you're not even
It's
like
very
giving that the
half-hearted.
time of day.
Yeah.
Like what
It
the
kind of it
fuck?
kind of turns into like a random like Little Witch Academia kind of thing along the way, and you're like, I guess, I guess.
Oh
Question mark.
yeah, and it's just like you're not doing justice to the things that you're trying to put into this on purpose. Like, like we had said, just to keep it brief, like we had said with like the trans character and like the gender norm shit that came up. It's like you're purposely putting this in here, but then you're also being exceptionally lazy with it and just like not not doing what you should be doing by your own your own choice of having this here. So
Right.
yeah. Other than that, I think Crunchyroll will, like I said, consistently have the weird fucked up series they constantly keep putting out that suck. So I think there's
Surprise.
always gonna have to be there's always gonna be one.
Hmm?
Huh?
Oh, wait, did Dark finish up?
Yeah, I said I think there's always gonna
Uh,
be one. There's
oh
always
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be
it would be
be
one.
one
Okay.
of these fucking things.
All right. Yeah. That's. Anyways, Nier, what about you?
Um, in regards to what? Just Crunchyroll or
Anything that we talked about, and just closing words on anything that we talked about in this podcast, like
I
Guardian Spice
mean,
Control or whatever.
yeah, it's
Yeah, always a great way to start off.
yeah, that's about how I feel. I do think people really expected this to be a lot worse, a lot more egregious. I think,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
because
okay, yeah.
again, I don't want to really like fucking hammer this down too hard, but with that initial uh announcement trailer, right? I think a lot of people, again, from a certain crowd, whereas expecting a series that was going to be just like literally every line is about the patriarchy and you know just like constant like oh I hate men and feminism and like I
Right,
think people were really expecting to go into this series uh and be like libtards they can't make anything good and it's like you know um there really wasn't anything like you can't even make fun of it for being like quote unquote woke. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's just not good. um, which I it's almost like sad, right?
It's
Like
half-hearted. It's half-hearted, that's the big
yeah,
thing.
it's like maybe they planned to make something like that, and then the initial announcement got like so much backlash, and they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do something like this. I don't know. Maybe they toned it back, and then we get I'm trans, um, but I don't know, man. It's just like they could have done a lot more. Um, they could have done a lot less. um, but like it's really just very not good. Uh,
Right,
like there's really nothing I can really praise the series for. It feels largely creatively bankrupt. Um, it's not exactly fun to look at. Uh, the voice actors feel lost in their performances. Um, it's just like I don't know. It just feels like a it feels like a strangely rushed production that was clearly like halted for
uh-huh,
years. Um, very weird. Uh,
yeah.
but in terms of Crunchyroll, fuck them. You should unsubscribe to Crunchyroll. They do not help the anime industry
Yeah,
at all. Your money is not going towards animators or animation studios or really like anything. It is literally just going towards Crunchyroll. Um,
yeah,
if you want to support the anime industry, Crunchyroll is unfortunately not the avenue to take. Um, you can buy merchandise, you can buy BDs, as fucking outrageously expensive as those are.
yeah.
Um, like you know, that is the stuff that is going to support the
Yeah,
industry.
the
If
thing
that is your
the
goal,
sad truth is unfortunately there's not that much that people on the local level can do because a lot of it's based on reforms or regulations on in terms of like how production companies work with the contracting studio or the contractor
yeah.
studios and so on. But yeah, at the very least,
If you
people
want
telling you
your
Crunchyroll is like helping the anime industry so much, that is a flat out lie.
yeah,
That is it's just a lie.
if you want your dollars, like if you want to legally, you know, own, like obtain anime, whatever, like
Mhm.
you know, buy, like go to the fucking bookstore and buy the manga there, right? Like, because at the very least, if you're buying physical copies of manga, it's at least supporting the companies that are localizing um, manga overseas, right? Like,
Mhm.
at least you're doing something there. Crunchyroll does not need your support. Let's be real. They're fucking lining their pockets like all day. They're literally owned by Sony. At this point, they cannot fail. They've been failing upwards for the past like fucking 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
Um, just unsubscribe. Like it's It's not worth it anymore. Just buy a fucking Netflix subscription or something, dude.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, as for me, I mean, it's just it's not what is it? Somebody there's an often there's one of those phrases that's like the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy or something like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, apathy is sort of what I feel for this series, where it's just for 3 years you did this, and now what do you really have to show for it, right? It's very unfortunately, it's just very half-assed. It's not even like bad, as in it's so cheesy or it's just so obviously just smarmy Western kind of weird tropes and stuff like that. It's just half-assed. Everything is half-assed about it. Like there are things that could have been okay, but wasn't. There are things that started out bad and then it got worse. It's just everything's just bad. It's just half-assed. And that kind of sums up, on, in my opinion, in my view, the philosophy of Crunchyroll. As long as it gets our name out there, as long as there's PR, as long as it's screaming Crunchyroll is all about anime, we're just gonna do whatever, even if it's just half-assed. And that's one of those sort of personalities slash attitudes towards really anything in general, whether it's life or work or anything, that I really disagree with. I'm always of the opinion, if you're going to do something, do it properly, do it all the way. At least B plus, stuff like that. And this just was a sad, pathetic attempt at quote unquote getting that sort of badge of honor on their chest, being like kind of unlocking that cheat of being like, hey, we made an anime. We are so anime. Doing just going through those steps, and it was sad. It was sad. So I guess that's all we have for now. Again, it was not as rage filled, rage inducing as we thought it would be, but it was still a little bit disappointing, to say the very least. But yeah, that was our side podcast, side episode on High Guardian Spice, the original Crunchyroll original. And so, hope you guys enjoyed that. It was a little bit of a romp that was a long time coming. Romp, I guess, not necessarily being the most accurate word, but it is a word that I'm going to use in this situation. Next episode is going to be next week, and we are again going to be in the middle of the fall 2021 review season. And we're just gonna again just kind of pile on through it. We're gonna do 2-3 more episodes, head up with the winter 2021 review, and we're obviously going to have our end of the year awards podcast uh, coming up. So that's going to be interesting. So watch out for that. And if you do like what we do, we stream our podcast recording live every other Saturday, starting from 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at twitch.tv/4PlayAnimecast. That's with the number 4. And we here you can check us out. Yeah, sorry. You can check out our VOD of the recording on here, Twitch, with our highlights, or on YouTube, whichever format that you prefer, where we talk about the latest and greatest in Japanese animation related media, anime, manga, light novels, web novels, visual novels, and so much more. If you want updates, check us on Twitter at 4PPAnimecast, that's our handle, or on Facebook for Player Animecast, again, all with the numeral 4. Until next time.